Greetings, everyone, and welcome to MACC Talk, a Monthaven Arts and Cultural Center podcast that explores the history, culture, traditions, and people of Middle Tennessee and beyond. I'm your host, John Pitcher, Chief Operating Officer at the MACC. Today, we're joined by Gallatin, Tennessee resident and world-renowned wildlife artist Ralph J. McDonald. As a wildlife artist, Ralph McDonald's career has been second to none. He has twice been featured artist in several of the most prestigious wildlife art shows in America, among them the Southeastern Wildlife Expo and World Wildlife Expo. The sales of his paintings over the years has helped raise more than $15 million for wildlife conservation. Indeed, his contributions to conservation have been so important that Ducks Unlimited and the Tennessee Wildlife Resources Agency have named a major wildlife management area in his honor. An exhibition of Ralph McDonald's art is currently on display at Monthaven Arts and Cultural Center in Hendersonville, Tennessee. This exhibit is titled The Magic of Santa, and it runs through January 7th, 2024. Ralph, welcome to Monthaven.
Yeah, thank you. I'm glad to be here with you.
Thank you so much. Well, your current exhibition features your portraits of Santa, which stylistically remind me a bit of the works of Haddam Sundblom and Norman Rockwell.
Yeah.
You're so well known for your wildlife art. What inspired you to start painting portraits of Old St. Nick?
Actually, I was invited by some of the graduate students from the art school that I went to come to Chicago, and they were going to show me around several studios. One of the studios happened to be Sundblom's studio. I didn't get to meet him. He had retired at that time, but I was so inspired at that point that I decided I was going to do, at some point I wanted to do that. And in art school, I was called to the attention of Haddam Sundblom's style of painting, which I really admired. He had very loose strokes that very few strokes would tell the whole thing. And so the first thing I did when I came home from that was I did a little painting for my mother of Santa looking at a list on the wall of her grandchildren. And I gave it to her for Christmas, and she was excited about that and hung it every year at Christmas. And I didn't paint Santa then again for a long time until I had opened an art gallery in Gatlinburg, Tennessee. And I took a trip one day. It snowed up there, and I could drive through the mountains. The roads weren't too bad. And on the way around the Caged Cove, I came upon I saw a deer in the distance, and it gave me an idea of a painting of putting Santa out in the edge of the woods and feeding the animals, and it was the first Santa painting. I put it in the window of my gallery in Gatlinburg, and it created a lot of excitement of people, and they came in to see it. And then I did not include, I usually hide a nativity somewhere in the Santa paintings, and that came about when I had a show in Atlanta, a trade show, and a lady came in and studied my painting of Santa, and she was really excited, came up to me and said, "I love your Santa painting, but there's nothing about the meaning of Christmas." So I came home, and the very next Santa painting I did, I hid a nativity in a tree, and continued every time I did a new painting. I tried to find a good place to hide the nativity, and that came across very well.
Okay. Well, I believe that very first painting was called A Christmas Party. Is that correct?
The very first painting was, I can't recall really, I think the name.
I think I saw it in your book. Yeah, I think it was called A Christmas Party, and it had Santa sitting down like on a log, feeding animals. And of course, that's your stock in trade would be the wildlife and the animals.
Right.
So then you sort of introduced a new element to it, and you've suddenly, we have a sort of a combination of Sundblom and Ralph McDonald.
Yeah, that's right.
Because you're now doing things that even he would not have been able to do, because that was not his specialty. Well, I loved your story about the Nativity, because people started noticing that here,
Right.
about in your paintings, and they became more and more excited.
All right.
It was the more they discovered them, because sometimes the Nativity in your Santa paintings are obvious. Like Santa will be sitting in his study, and there'll be a painting of the Nativity in the background.
Yeah.
But sometimes it might just be outlined in a wispy cloud somewhere.
Right. Yeah.
So what sort of inspired you to sort of approach it that way, in a kind of like to sort of blend it into the background? What was that idea? Was it sort of a spirit of Christmas idea, or what was it?
Yeah. It was. I just wanted to find a place that wasn't too easy to find.
Okay.
That you had to look for.
Okay.
And so, different things came to mind each time I did a painting. So.
Okay. Excellent. Well, everyone has loved that aspect of it. It's the reason for the season. So, one of the models for your Santas was, I believe, a man named Cliff Snyder. Is that correct?
Chris Snyder.
All right. Tell me about him, and have there been any other models for your Santas?
Well, he had a little gallery of his own, and he played Santa Claus every year, and he looked a lot like Santa Claus. Had a nice beard. He came into my booth at one of the trade shows, and I said, "I think you would make a nice model."
Oh, okay.
And we became very good friends, and he actually went to a Santa Claus school, and he every year he played Santa Claus, and everywhere he went, he was Santa Claus. He would be in a little restaurant, and if he saw a kid across the room, they would come running to him, and he would always had some candy or something with him. He'd give them a little gift.
Oh, wow.
And so he really played the part and felt the part, and he had been doing it pretty long time in his life. So,
wow.
I thought he made a great model, and
he'd obviously studied this role.
Yeah.
So, wow. Okay. Well, tell me a little bit about your process, what it was like, your process of painting, because obviously you used a model for Santa, correct?
Yeah.
So did you usually paint from models or photos, or did you paint, because you've done there's so much detail in your paintings. Do you paint from photographs or from your memory? How do you do it?
I use some of the things I do from memory, but I always had a model. I used him and took photographs and everything of him, and I liked doing that, and he didn't mind posing for me at all. And so that's I usually did before I ever started anything. I would do pencil sketches myself and change things as I needed to. Until I got it where I wanted, and then I would transfer that to canvas and go from there.
Now, is that the same? Did you do the same process with your wildlife art?
Yeah, I sure did. I did sketches first, and I would move things around, to fit the composition.
Okay.
Before I started.
Did you?
But I always did sketches.
Okay.
They taught us in art school. The plan. It's like building a house. You need a foundation.
Okay.
Yeah.
Fascinating. Now, I was just wondering about that, because there is just so much detail.
Yeah.
I mean, we can see, the fur on the squirrel.
Yeah.
We can almost feel the feathers on the goose.
Yeah.
So I was wondering, is that something that could even be done from memory? But I guess it could be, if you have such a really good visual memory. Interesting. Well, you've published a wonderful Santa book. And one of my favorite features of the book are some of the original poems. And here's a terrific example. It's called A Special Gift. I'll read it. The special gift, you will agree, is not the one piled 'neath the tree. It couldn't be a child's delight when first he sees this festive sight, nor the Christmas turkey piping hot and the glistening snow, it is not. A holy child in a crib of hay was the special gift on Christmas Day. What inspired you to include original poems and I believe even a Christmas recipe or two in this book? I thought that what a nice touch.
Yeah. I just thought that, I think we needed something to go into the Christmas cards when he did them. Mm-hmm. And when I was in high school, an English teacher that I had kind of encouraged me, I wrote a couple of little verses, and she encouraged me to kind of keep that up if I wanted to. Mm-hmm. And I remember I played football in high school, and in one particular game that we did really well in, I wrote a poem about it. And at the next game that we played on our home field, at halftime, they read my poem over the loudspeaker and all. Mm-hmm. And I said, well, if it's worth them saying that, I should write another poem, I guess.
That's interesting.
But anyway, that was kind of fun, really, writing a little verse. I never did anything very serious, but I enjoyed doing it, and everybody that saw it seemed to enjoy it also.
Well, so it sounds like you've been doing that for a very long time.
Yeah.
Well, you've been obviously an artist for a very, very long time. Let me ask you. I'm curious. When did you first discover your passion and your talent for drawing and painting?
As long as I can remember, I was interested I would try to draw. And my mother was a very creative person and always saw that I had material and things to work with. She was an expert seamstress, did a lot of important clothing things for some of the country music lady singers. And so she would give me something to work on while she was sewing to kind of keep me out of trouble.
Keep you busy.
And I would show it to her, occasionally what I had done, and she would brag on it big time. Uh-huh. And but I've been doing it as long as I can remember. Okay. I wanted to paint.
So you were a little kid when you got started, and then you went to art school.
Yeah, I went to art school. I started to college at Tennessee Tech, and there was no art there. Mm-hmm. And I just really got disgusted. I wanted to be an artist, and so I quit. Came back to Nashville, got a job with the Yellow Pages of the phone book, designing little ads for the Yellow Pages. Okay. I did that for a couple of years, and then I knew about this art school in Nashville, and I started dating a girl that lived in an apartment house next to this art school. And when I would take her home, I would see the kids in the windows and the paintings and stuff. And I got all excited about it, and I just quit my job and went enrolled in night classes at first. Mm-hmm. And so I went for about a year in night classes. And I met a young, beautiful girl, art student there, and we got married. And she was just finishing when I started, and she started working as a fashion artist for one of the department stores, and helped me get through art school. And so I was at the art, and I was really pretty good at figure drawing. And when I finished my courses, they asked me to stay and be an assistant instructor in figure drawing.
Really? At the school?
At the school. So I stayed there a couple of more years, so I was actually in art school for about 5 years. Okay. And when I left art school, I worked briefly at an advertising agency. I freelanced briefly. Mm-hmm. And then I got a job at the Methodist Publishing House doing religious illustrations. Okay. And I think I learned more there than anywhere because I had to do it, and I had to do it right. And I worked there for 5 years. Okay. And I left and started freelancing again for different publishing houses like the Catholics and the Baptists, the Seventh-day Adventists. All of them found out about my work in religious art, and I got all the work I could handle.
Wow, Nashville would be about the best place, other than Rome, to focus on religious paintings.
Yeah, right. And that really kept me going, and I learned more and got more practice. And before I opened this gallery in Gatlinburg, and I kept that gallery for about 20 years, and it finally got where it was a little too much for me to handle. I couldn't, keep up with the business and my artwork too. So I just kind of been working really with my Christmas paintings for several years now. So.
Okay. So when that lady at the trade show in Atlanta suggested that you add, a religious element, she probably had no idea that she was talking to an expert in creating those kinds of images.
Right.
Yeah. So for you, that was something that was just very, very natural.
Yeah. Yeah. That's about it.
Well, what inspired you to become a wildlife artist? Because you obviously did a lot of different kinds of commercial art.
Yeah.
And, also religious art. What inspired the wildlife? Because that's what you are truly famous for.
Yeah. My dad was quite an outdoorsman. Loved to hunt rabbits and stuff, and he would take me with him, and I was more interested in what was going on around me when I was with him than I was actually hunting myself.
Right.
And but I got interested in the outdoors, there. It kind of made an impression on me, and I wanted, when I would get home, I would try to draw something or do something according to the place I had been and what I did. And that was just sort of a continuation of that. And then I got invited to go duck hunting when I was working at the publishing house. A friend of mine came by and said, "Let's go hunting down in West Tennessee." He said, "I know a good place to go." And when I went with him, and we had a guide that put us in his boat and took us out through the woods, the flooded woods, and found a good place to hunt. And he rammed the boat into a couple of trees to hold it steady. And we got out and cut some brush and camouflaged it pretty good. And I was sitting there, and I was about to freeze to death. And I heard, some ducks were kind of coming in, and this guy started calling them. And the ducks started answering and started circling us, and I got all excited about that. And then, they came in, and I didn't even shoot at them. I was so interested in watching them.
Right.
And so, that planted something in me that said, hey, this would be good to do. And the governor of Tennessee, Winfield Dunn at the time, commissioned me to paint the state bird. And a guy from Ducks Unlimited, the state chairman of Ducks Unlimited, came and asked if he could have one of those, to sell at their auction. And I gave it to him, and it brought a very good price at auction. And that kind of got me started with Ducks Unlimited. The national president happened to be at the meeting where that was auctioned. And they had me give them one of my paintings that I did of some geese to go on the cover of the DU magazine, which is a national publication. And I started getting a request from all around the country, to donate prints to their chapter. And we did that for years, and helped them raise money, and they.
Oh yes, well, you and Ducks Unlimited,
Yeah.
they really found their artist.
So
in you.
Ducks Unlimited really put me on the map.
And on the cover,
Yeah, right.
just everywhere.
Yeah,
So
I did a
that's
couple of
amazing.
covers for Ducks Unlimited over the years, and
Well, Governor Dunn's not the only politician who sort of sought you out. I believe other governors, the governor of South Carolina,
yeah, the governor,
turned to you, right?
Governor John West, commissioned me to paint the state animal of South Carolina, and that came off pretty good. And we did a tour of South Carolina to doing different TV shows to promote, the painting that I did there. But I also did a portrait of Governor of Louisiana. I can't think of his name right now. The one that he was a country music. He and his wife did religious song singing. Had a group that did religious singing, and I visited him and went on a tour with him around the state. And he told me, he said, if I get elected, I'm going to commission you to paint everything Louisiana. He didn't get elected.
Okay.
But he used my painting on the cover of a book that he did about his life and everything, and that went over pretty good for me.
Well, and I believe you're widely collected. I mean, I think I've read somewhere that a U.S. Chief Justice has collected your work, members of Congress. So you are very, very popular.
Oh, well, art has really been good to me.
Yeah. Well, let me ask you. You've been so busy over the years. You've accomplished so many things. What are you most proud of?
I think I'm most proud of my Santa paintings. I think I did a good job on most of them, and people seem to enjoy it, and it's fun to do. I still have a good friend that models for me.
Okay.
And it has gotten a lot of good reviews, I think.
Okay.
My artwork for Christmas.
Well, that's exciting because those Santa paintings are here at Monthaven. We have been speaking with the great Tennessee-based artist Ralph J. McDonald. His exhibition, The Magic of Santa, is on display at Monthaven Arts and Cultural Center in Hendersonville through January 7th, 2024. Thank you, Ralph, for being here.
Thank you.
You've been listening to MACC Talk. I'm John Pitcher. Thanks for listening.